Okay, so we have our top and this side. We'll get to that later. So now we have this back side. And you can see underneath the lovely book paper I used. I try to balance out not only the color of the book page, but the size of the text, because I want to have variety. I don't want everything to be the same. Love this dark brown fabric, and these two complement each other so nicely. The palette is exactly the same, but the design, of course, is very different, and that's just really great for my purposes. This box is a little dented in there. Oh, I forgot this one. I'm doing half and half. So this one was cut a little wider. And I've got part of it on this side and part of it's just gonna swing around to the other side. And I have two more companion pieces, which I talked about earlier. When I was talking about tension, okay, this way they're facing into the grouping. Look what happens when you change that around and they're facing out. You may like that. In this particular case, I really don't have a problem with that. Back, I may do that. I think we're going to add some tension, and I'm going to flip them around, but I'm still going to position them close together so that they're viewed as a grouping and not as two separate individual pieces. I am not interested in separating them just to spread them out to fill the space between the two pieces of fabric. That's not what we want to do. We want to just keep them positioned close together so the entire grouping is centered between the two pieces of fabric. Because what happens if you put them far apart in order to fill your space, I guarantee you the eye is going to be drawn to the gap between them, and that's what we don't want. We don't want to have a visual gap separating the two. So, I'm going to try and get this a little better for you. Okay, now we've got fabric on both ends, and our bees are positioned going in opposite directions to create some tension and interest. And now I have this final inside. I'm going to try and get that Get it focused. And I got my final bee here. I could switch to paper on paper glue, but since I've got this out and going well, I'm just going to stick with what I've been using. And as I said earlier, I'm not positioning it in the center. I'm positioning it a little off, so it is centered between the edge of the dark fabric and the end here. And it's just slightly above center, so that it doesn't feel like it's about to fall off our wall. Okay, so here we have that. We have our top, and now let's get to this side here. Okay. This is the side that has the flaps. We saved the flaps so that when we run out of tissue, we can easily open this up and replenish. So I covered the outside and the inside with papers, and notice how small the text is. When you have small sections like this, it's a wonderful place to use up paper that you have on hand that's really small type. So you can get a lot on there, and it just is so perfect for small walls. Again, I'm looking at each piece individually. And to kind of dress this up, make it a little more fun, after I put the book paper on and I grunged up the edges with some of the walnut ink stain, then I cut out these little postal things that I had stamped on a separate sheet of paper, grunged them up, put a little of the brown walnut ink on them, and so they're a little more fun to see when you would open this up. So now on the outside, the inside of these, I went with the same book page paper, but on the outside I went with something different, some ledger paper scraps that I had on hand. And my decision I had to make was, do I want to make my own buttons, or do I want to use something that I have here that I purchased commercially? I have these little commercial buttons there, and then I have these little decorative brads. So I have these little wooden painted buttons, and then the little brads over here. And I just decided for this particular style of that I've gone with, I just didn't care for that. I've been using some postal imagery, and so I decided, I think I'll just make my own, and that's what I've done. So I had these postal images that I have on a stamp, and I found them on some paper, cut them out. They're 1 inch in diameter, and I have a little cutter that's 1 inch in diameter, and so I was very easy to just punch them out with this cutter. And then I took a piece of black cardstock and I punched out 6 more of these 1 inch circles out of the cardstock. And you can see that here, that's where they came from. And then I glued 3 of them together, and then the postal one on top of that. So my thickness is 4 pieces of cardstock all glued together, one on top of the other. And that gives me something that's strong enough to act like a button there. And then I have some little brown bronze brads that aren't like the other ones I showed you earlier. They're little brads like this. And I punched right in the middle. Right in the middle, I punched a 1/8 inch hole, and you can do it with a tool as I did, or you can just use an owl like this and do it by hand, and just punch a hole right in the middle, and then you stick your brad through that and through the flap of the box, and then just open it up on the back. Now you can leave it like that, open and grungy, or you can paste a stick, put a sticker over it to hide that, or glue something down, maybe another postal thing if you have it. I ran out of that, I'd have to make more, but you can cover it over with paper, you can cover it over with fabric. It doesn't have to stay like that. And then I have a spool of elastic cording. This is Mandela Crafts, and let me see what size it is. This is 2 millimeters in diameter, and of course this is 70 meters long. Unless you're gonna need a lot of this over a long period of time, just go to a stationery store somewhere, or Amazon, where you can buy just a little bit of it. It doesn't have to be elastic, though. You could use really anything, embroidery thread or something, to make yourself a little lasso that hooks around the one here on the bottom. And I left the tie on it, I'll tell you why in a minute, so that once I have it secured, well, come on up here. Okay, that's a little more cumbersome than I thought it would be. Anyway, once you have it secured in place, in order to release it, you can just pull on these 2 ends. Pull on the 2 ends to release it. But, you don't have to do it that way, and you certainly don't have to use elastic. But since I have it, I decided to use that. And now, positioning wise, the top one I positioned near the bottom of the flap, and the bottom one had to be positioned lower. So what you want to do is use the hole that you punched in your button. Use that, just lay it down and take a pen or pencil and mark where you want to put the hole in the flap and play around with it. Now, after I got the 2 done, I got to thinking, gee, I didn't really even need to have 2. If you could maybe get away with just putting 1, put it up a little higher so that maybe half or almost half of the upper part of the button overlaps, and then you can just stick the top end of the flap behind the button. You can see I have a little bit of an overlap here, even though I didn't intend to do that. But that's what gave me the idea. Oh, I could have just put 1 button over and have it overlap, and then the top just, you know, you just stick it back behind the part of the button that overlaps, and that'll hold it in place. So I just pass that on. You can use 1 button or 2. You can do them different sizes than I did. You'll have to decide that based on the size of your tissue box and the style that you're going for. And then I had this number 5 that I found in my stash, and I decided that since this is the 5th tissue box I've decorated, that I should probably label it number 5. So that's going to go right here. Oop. Not quite as straight as I want. Okay, so there you have it. A tissue box. When you're all done, just, you know, take the time to go around and inspect it thoroughly. Make sure all your ends are glued down where you want them. I can see I have a lot of touch-up work to do, but I won't bore you with that. And I hope you've enjoyed this whole process. I have. Again, I learn everything. Every time I do a project, I learn something new, and it's fun and challenging, and so I really encourage you. Again, stop by my Etsy shop. There's some resources there that you might find of great value for your projects, and please like, share this video with friends and family, and so everybody can learn something and have fun and get inspired to do whatever. And as you start thinking of doing stuff like this, you'll be amazed at what comes into your house that you could repurpose and decorate and make better use of than throwing it in the trash. So I really encourage you to be creative, and I thank you for stopping by and sticking with me, and I hope this has helped. If you found it of value, please give it a like. Oh, I'd love to hear from you. Not many people are commenting so far, so ask a question, make a comment. I would really like to engage with you. Again, this is Miss Darling in the studio calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.